point in time, I will absolutely look to hire folks to manage things like my social media, as an example, to
Oh,
manage client follow-up. So, not hiring right now, just myself, but future
okay.
state, stay tuned.
Every success has a story. Every breakthrough has a struggle. Every podcast conversation has an opportunity. Behind the Wind podcast, hosted by Anj Castro, powered by Behind the Wind team. Podcast management that turns guests into opportunities.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Wind podcast. I'm your host, Anj Castro. And for today's guest, we have Colin Casillas. Colin, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anj.
It's an honor to have you, and I'm so excited to learn about your business, learn about all the things behind your win. So, for my very first question, what business do you exactly do, and how is it helping other people?
Yeah, great question. So it's a coaching service, and it's purpose built for high performing professionals that are considering what I call retiring from alcohol. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because they realize they could be a better version of themselves, whether that's as a professional, a father, a husband, a son, a friend, and they're really just kind of starting to reflect on their relationship with alcohol. It doesn't mean they've necessarily hit a rock bottom or had a crisis. Matter of fact, that's not what my focus is at all. I redirect potential clients to the appropriate service if they are in crisis mode. So this is more, I've thought about it. I realize that I could be a better version of myself, and I'm looking to talk with someone that's been through the process themselves. So that's the focus of my coaching service.
Thank you. I think this business is like it came from a passion of helping other people. Am I right? Can you tell me more what's behind this
Yeah,
kind of
great
coaching?
question. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it really came by way of my own experiences. So when I first got into corporate America in my mid 20s, I was working for a very large Fortune 500 retailer based in the States. And it was very much, if you've heard the phrase, work hard, play hard, it
Mm-hmm.
very much lived up to that saying. And, so everything centered around happy hours, vendor parties, and alcohol was rampant. So at a very early, impressionable age, it was something that I said, look, I work hard. Why can't I play hard? So I got behind it, as well. But what I saw, even in those early years of my corporate America journey, I started to see the repercussions of that at a very early age. So people acting in a very, I'll say, non-professional way, and the repercussions of that. Individuals coming in the next day still reeking of alcohol. I still vividly remember that. And that carried on for a number of years, just things I would witness. And again, at this point, mid 20s, um, it was something that was eye-opening, I'll say, because I'd never really been exposed to that. I don't want to call it debauchery, but certainly, the party, the play hard side of that was something that I'd never experienced before. So fast forward into the career that I've been in for the better part of 20 years now, which is technology sales. Within the technology industry, it's almost expected that you're going to go to happy hours, you're going to host client meetings, you're going to host client dinners that revolve around alcohol and ordering the most expensive bottle of wine, and not just one bottle, but multiple bottles, and then seeing it as part of company events where I've seen firsthand individuals passed out in elevators, and I've seen the impact not only for individual contributors, but for leaders as well. And so when I started to really kind of bring all this together, it would have been 6 or 7 years ago now, I really started to reflect on my relationship with alcohol and asking myself, do I want to be associated with that? Because it was very much a turnoff, as you might imagine. And For me, I wanted to be the best father I could be for my two children. I wanted to be the best husband I could be. And although I was performing at a high level, I did, everybody gets older, right? So as I started to get into my mid to late 40s, I realized that I could no longer recover from a Friday or Saturday night of having cocktails like I could when I was in my 30s. And when I say, recover from, what I mean is that, alcohol impacts you for a day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days after you've had your last drink of alcohol. And that really starts to compound as you get older. So for me, even if I had a couple glasses of wine on Saturday, it was still affecting me into Monday and Tuesday, not only professionally, but like I said, as a husband and a father. So there were times I can recall where I would be just crabby on a Monday evening for no apparent reason. And I knew years ago why probably that was, but I chose to ignore it. And it wasn't until 2019 when a close acquaintance of mine released a book on his journey from walking away from alcohol. And I hadn't told anybody at the time I bought that book, but that's really when I started to think seriously that I wanted a life that did not include alcohol. And that started the journey, which I now call prepared sobriety. Myself, I call it retired. I don't like the word quit. I retired from drinking in April of 2025. And since then, it didn't start as I was going to start a coaching business or service at all. But what happened was people would ask my story, similar to what you just did, and they became very intrigued. They said, you should tell that story to more people. You should maybe look at helping other people. So
Yeah.
that's how it started, and here we are today.
That is an amazing story and inspiring, especially hearing that you changed because of being a father and being a husband. So I love that. If I may ask, did you already did you start the business right away after school, or you were in the corporate before you did this business?
Yes, I'm still in corporate America. I'll probably be doing the corporate
Oh
America
yeah,
thing for
the
how
Fortune
many years?
500, the one that
No,
you said.
I'm in technology sales now, so I'm working for a much smaller company, but
Oh.
I sell into very large companies here in the States, worldwide for that matter.
Mm.
So that is, what I do during the day. So the coaching thing, like I said, didn't really come to a head where I'm like, all right, I got to start a coaching business. It just kind of evolved naturally. It evolved organically by way of conversations like what you and I are having today, where people said, look, have you thought about helping others? And what happened was I'd talk to one person, that person would tell another person, and next
Oh,
thing you know, I'm talking with a handful of people on any given
wow.
week, and that's what it is today. So, if someone reaches out and wants to have one-on-one coaching, generally I'm scheduling that local time, my time, anywhere from 5 to 9 o'clock p.m. or early morning, and that works out well because generally the people that I'm talking with and working with are in similar positions, meaning they've been in, corporate America for years, if not decades. So they're trying to, think through their relationship with alcohol, but they, have very important and busy day jobs. So, to make myself available in the evening and early morning works out really well.
Okay, and thank you for sharing that. Was there hardships that you encountered when you decide, okay, I'm gonna do this as a business?
Um, Not hardship with the business at all. That's just kind of naturally evolved to its current state. Hardship as far as me making the decision to walk away, or what I have coined retire from
Yeah.
alcohol. Absolutely, because it had been something that had been a part of my life professionally and personally for
Mhm.
decades. So to, decide that I was going to walk away from alcohol was a significant decision. I don't wouldn't say hardship, but it was a struggle in that I'm an introvert and I'm in
Mhm.
sales. So I think over the years I leaned on alcohol as a way to help me, relax, or what I thought was relaxing. and a way to maybe give me a boost in confidence, although that was a false sense of confidence, into, social events, whether it would be, customer dinners or maybe client happy hours or vendor happy hours. So there was, again, I don't want to call it hardship, but there was some struggle there. Like, what's going to happen when I am a part of those events without alcohol? And, I had many years to think about it. So it was 2019 where I started to really consider and think about retiring from alcohol. And it wasn't until 2025 that I actually did so. So I've been, alcohol free since April of 2025. So going on a year and a half now. And what I found, Ange, is that your confidence increases. So what I thought alcohol was doing with giving me confidence was, in fact, not doing that. And even as an introvert, I am now more confident going into anything that revolves around alcohol than I was when I was drinking alcohol. So,
Mhm.
um,
Thank you. You mentioned about struggle, and I totally understand because if you are used into something, like it's something that you're used in doing, and then you're gonna stop doing it, it's a struggle. Now, can you share with us how was that journey look like? Like when you feel like you're struggling, was there like a cope of holding yourself up? What are those things that helped you really to continue the new path that you're trying to go despite of the struggle?
yeah, so there's a lot there to unpack. So, in the 6 years, if you will, where I seriously started to imagine a life without alcohol, so call that 2019 to 2025. There was a lot of things I worked through mentally, as you might imagine. And what happened by way of conversations that I've had with folks over the past year and a half is I started to uncover, at the time, I had no idea that there was a framework in place, but it's not by chance that happened because my job as a enterprise sales rep within technology, within cybersecurity, requires you to be very pragmatic. You need to be very strategic with how you handle the accounts that you're working. So for me, in my head, I had a framework. I just hadn't laid it out, but that was a framework I was working within for 6 years. So what came out of that was me sitting down and reflecting after I'd retired from alcohol to really understand what that journey looked like. And what ultimately came out of that, Ange, was a 5-stage framework that I now use with my clients. And it starts with imagination. So, as I had said in 2019, I started to imagine what a life without alcohol would look like.
Mhm.
So, instead of doing a Friday happy hour with my wife as date night, perhaps we would go to a coffee shop. Maybe we would simply go for a walk. And I started to imagine what life might look like. And I hadn't told anybody at this point in time, not even my wife, that I was considering this, but it was imagining a life without alcohol. So that's what I call stage one. Stage two is identity drift. So, what I mean by that is I am not the best version of myself, whether that is as a professional, so at work, I'm not consistently showing up as the best version of myself, and I realize that. Or it could be I'm not showing up as the best version of as a husband, as a father. So that's what I mean by identity drift. You really start to understand how alcohol is impacting your life. That then moves into stage three that I call compounding friction. And what I mean by that is you start to realize the negative effects on your body, on your mind from alcohol. So for me, it wasn't just a mental thing, meaning I knew when I was foggy, I knew when I didn't have the clarity, and I knew alcohol was the likely contributor. For initially, I perhaps tried to blame it on just getting older, but I knew deep down that it was alcohol. And for me, I'd always been very healthy, very active, but I kept on piling on the pounds. And I was like, what's going on here? I didn't like taking pictures anymore because I was puffy and inflamed. So that compounding friction really starts to hit you. And for those that are wanting to be a healthier version of themselves, that's something that you take very seriously. And I did. So that's what I mean by compounding friction as stage three. And then stage four is where you get to a point where like, look, enough is enough. I need to make a decision to walk away from alcohol. So that decision point, if you will, stage, what I call stage four, you really want to have something that is a compelling event or a forcing function. So for me, as an example, in April of 2025, I had surgery scheduled. So I had to stop drinking alcohol 2 weeks out from surgery. So for me, that was my, forcing function, if you will, right? I had to stop regardless because I had surgery coming up. So
Mhm.
at that point, I knew I was likely completely done with alcohol. And that
Yeah.
was the first time I started sharing that with, my wife, who didn't take me seriously initially. I started sharing that with friends. And there was some concern there with sharing it with friends because you are, for the most part, walking away from a portion of your life that's centered around alcohol. So there's some fear associated with that. There's some uncertainty associated with that. There's some questions around what's my life going to look like without alcohol? Are my friends still going to be my friends? And what I found out was I would say 90% of the people I told were extremely supportive.
Wow.
And unbeknownst to me, these folks were actually watching my journey and I was impacting people indirectly. So even the people that I haven't coached one on one, they were watching my journey in walking away from alcohol. And a good portion of them have either cut back alcohol significantly or completely. So it's very empowering. And, that it's just something that by way of seeing things like that, by way of interacting with my clients, something I'm very passionate about, right? When you can impact people's lives for the better, that's very rewarding.
Yes, I totally agree. It is very empowering um experience or an empowering thing that you do, especially when you are giving positive impact to other people. I'm
Indeed.
happy to hear that. Um, Hearing your story, I feel like you are already or you already achieved a certain level of success in trying to live your life without alcohol. Could you say you also um or could you say your clients are also in that kind of success, or they're still in the process of, dealing with it?
Yeah, great question. So that's a question I get asked often. So what happens is a client will approach me and say, "Look, I have no idea if I am months out from stopping alcohol or years out." For me, the only way I can relate that to my clients is I was years out, right? So I started thinking about this initially in 2019, and it wasn't until 2025 where I said, "Look, I'm done now."
Mhm.
And that mental process is what allows you to build up the momentum to truly be done when you are ready. Now, then, for some clients, that could be a year or years.
Mhm.
Other clients, they're only months out. And the reason they're only months out is perhaps they've been thinking about this already for some time and they just are looking for someone to talk with that has been through this before. They're looking
Mhm.
for someone to validate their thoughts. They're looking for someone to share their concerns, their fears of what life is going to look like outside of alcohol. Excuse me. And they're looking for someone to hold them accountable without having to enter into some of the more, I won't name their names, but more of the historic programs that are available here in North America that have more, they label people. And what I find is with my clients, this is something that they don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be part of a bigger group. They want to keep it private and discreet. And their approach in working with me works out very, very well for them.
Okay, that's awesome. If there's biggest lesson you have learned in this journey that you'd like to share to our audience, what is it?
Yeah, I would say, pulling from my experience and then some of my closest clients, it would be if you are thinking about walking away from alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
act sooner rather than later. So that's the biggest lesson that I would take. So what I mean by that is I probably could have, I know I could have walked away from alcohol sooner than April of 2025. Now that I have no regrets, I don't look in the rear view mirror. But what I can say is the positive effects of being alcohol free are profound. So for me, I look at it and how much better of a father I am, husband, how much better of a employee, professional and I am in my career. I look at it and say, you know what, I probably should have done this sooner. But again, no regrets. But for people that might be listening or considering this, if you have thought about it, act sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I love that message. If there is like one question that podcasters really never ask you about, is there like, is there any question like that that you also wish I should have asked you?
Yeah, I would say as it relates to my coaching business, Prepared Sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People ask the questions you've asked today for sure. The question I don't really get asked often is, and I had mentioned it briefly, is what happens if someone has hit rock bottom or is in crisis mode, right? That is not a fit for me, and I will be completely transparent with folks that reach out to me. I will, refer them to an actual practitioner because I am not a medical practitioner at all. I'm simply a
Mm-hmm.
coach. So, I want to be crystal clear on that as well. So if people are listening that are in a full-blown crisis mode or have hit rock bottom in one way, shape, or form, they're likely not a good fit for me. And I will tell them that and I will guide them to the right resources to ensure they have the proper support.
All right, thank you so much. And what is the best way for our listeners to connect with you, especially those people that, they think you can help them?
Yeah, I think the best way, the easiest way is preparedsobriety.com. There's some really good content there that they can read through, and then they can contact me directly there from the website.
All right, thank you. And for my very last question, are you hiring? I mean, uh,
Hmm.
I mean, the reason why I'm starting this podcast is to open the door of opportunity because not only the people whom you wanted to help with your service, but I know there could be an opportunity for you. Like if you need someone in your team and there might be other people who's looking for opportunity, especially those people who are tuning in right now. They might be the person you're looking for. So,
Yeah.
but it's okay if you're not.
No, so what I'll tie that back to kind of future state. So for now, as I had mentioned, this is something that I do just in the evenings and in the mornings. But I eventually see this being, I don't want to say my retirement business because I'm a little too young to fully retire, but I would say, over the next couple of years, I will continue to do the corporate America thing. I love selling, and that's what I do during the day. But eventually, I see myself doing this in more of a full-time state. It's probably a couple of years out, but at that point in
Mhm.
time, I will absolutely look to hire folks to manage things like my social media, as an example, to
Oh,
manage client follow-up. So, not hiring right now, just myself, but future
okay.
state, stay tuned.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Colin, for the wonderful conversation. Your story is inspiring, totally inspiring, because I know whatever you experience, I know there are people out there who are in that kind of situation until now. And, you know, you are a proof that if you really wanted to change, you can. And again, I'm so grateful that you shared your story with me. And of course, to everyone who's tuning in, thank you so much. I hope you all get inspired, and I will see you in the next episode.